Well, I just got cut off because I got a call to my phone. But so picking up where I was at in part one, this will now be part two. So yeah, as a black man, I definitely get privilege, especially in the northern communities that see me as a black man. And I definitely use that to my advantage to let them know, fine, I'll be black. I'm a black man, and I don't have any problems with that. Another way, as a brown man, I get privilege because I'm seen as a brown man in many different latitudes on Earth, based on my skin color, which is really the truth. I'm definitely of the brown race, which is Fitzpatrick 2 people all the way to Fitzpatrick 5. The white race is really Fitzpatrick 1, the black race is really Fitzpatrick 6, and those are the three races, undeniably so. And there are evolutionary reasons for that. When it comes to the brown race, it's a little more variable because of the different evolutions of some of those different populations. Specifically, I'm referring to Indians from India, Chinese from China, or those Asian groups. And then I'm also referring to indigenous groups like Native Americans, indigenous Latinos and Latinas, indigenous Caribbean groups. But the common thing about those indigenous brown groups is that we all ended up outside and we all were walking. We didn't construct buildings to the same degree as the white Caucasians, until we eventually learned from the white Caucasians. And that, I'm pretty sure, is not wrong. The only exception on some things with that is usually China. I'm sure people can come up with one or two exceptions for a lot of groups, but when you look at like thousands of examples versus the one or two exceptions, those thousands of examples dominate every single time. That is not changing. And that is part of the reason why white people get white privilege, which is a background and basis for white privilege too. So I don't completely agree with Zach King on this idea that there's no privilege and it's all made up and all this crap. I'm not saying that it's a reason to not achieve regardless what color you are and what form of animal you are. But I am saying that it is real. It should be recognized, it should be understood, and obviously on some level it will have to be accepted because that shit is just not changing ever. Not joking, never changing, all right? We have color makes a difference, and race is real, race makes a difference, and as a result of that, there are many things that happen and that we think of and do, whether it be unconscious, subconscious, or highly conscious. And one other way that I get privilege is by being a nigger. And there is no doubt about that either, especially, having been educated in the United States of America for a large part of my life and understanding what that word really means, the history behind the word nigger, and how it is used today in many different forms as nigger, nigga, niege, and all these other shits. So, I'm using my nigger privilege even. And quite honestly, there's no reason not to. And I've definitely seen other people in other industries who have used nigger privilege too. So even nigger has privilege. So, that really wraps up privilege. But I did want to touch on privilege other than race and other than, racial differences amongst humans. So you can, look at other animals. Other animals even get privilege. A horse gets privilege for being a horse. A horse we can groom, we can take care of, we can try to assist it by housing it in stables and being nice. But part of the reason why we do that is because we can ride the horse, and the horse has a very defined function due to its anatomy and body and physical form. And as a result, the horses do get privilege different to a cat or a dog. When we want an animal for locomotion, we go and take care of the horse. And, we have to take care of the horse in a way that the horse will respond and allow us to ride the horse and enjoy the horse. Oxen have a lot of privilege. And why is that? Oxen have privilege. We took care of oxen and domesticated them in a way that eventually was agreeable to the oxen, enough that the oxen did work for us because the oxen can pull things like a plow. These are, old-time examples, but, these things did make a difference and are important in the evolution of human beings and life on Earth. A dog has a lot of privilege. A lot of people like dogs, and partly because dogs can be great companions, and show a lot of affection even towards their human masters or their human owners or other human beings, even their humanly friends. And cats even. A lot of people like cats because cats will be off on their own, take care of their time, clean themselves, and very cleanly pets. Birds, you can apply this pretty much to anything. You can even give a plant privilege. And the plant, obviously, from my perspective, in the tree, has a lot of privilege. I'll take care of trees for a long time because the tree is sustaining my life. Without a tree, I would not be able to live. The trees are what provide the oxygen that we need as human beings and all animals need to breathe. There might be some exceptions when we get to like bacteria and viruses. Viruses and bacteria are also animals. They don't really need the oxygen to breathe per se, but there's still an interaction between the environment and what's produced by a plant or a tree and those bacteria and viruses. But definitely as humans, we need the tree because the tree provides oxygen via the sunlight and the chloroplast and chlorophyll in the leaves of the tree. And we also provide life to the tree on some level too because we breathe out the carbon dioxide that I think eventually helps them in producing their nutrients too. So, that's another form of privilege. And then another one that, is more humanly and definitely one that should not be overlooked is the privilege of wealth. Wealthy people do have a certain privilege because they can afford certain things, they can pay for certain things, they have certain resources, they have time and space usually as a result of that, at least the highest order of wealthy people. And those highest orders definitely can create more because they have the time and space and the leisure to think properly or to think in a manner that allows them to do that. On the other side, though, it doesn't discount poverty and the privilege of poverty. There is privilege of poverty. As a poor person or coming from a poor country or being impoverished, the ones who survive and thrive through poverty, especially, those ones took their time to understand the thriftiness and frugality that they had to live with or have to use to succeed and achieve beyond just existing. And so that is yet again another form of privilege. So the simplest way to understand how to come to these types of conclusions is to overcome your own bias, overcome one's bias. I definitely had to overcome my own biases by understanding all of my biases as best I could, applying that information, understanding the outcomes, and then starting to understand the processes behind that and how I could adjust it and live a life that I want to live. Let me just get a little more water. Here's my jug. This jug I really liked. I got this one from William and Sonoma, another great place, another great company that I like because they have high quality products. And this glass from Sur la Table. But anyway, finishing up is the poverty part, or actually the other, how I come to these conclusions about privilege and other things, and even race, even racism, all those other factors, and wealth, and culture, anything you can think of, I can dwindle it down to the null and figure out all those factors. And then sometimes with assistance, sometimes on my own, even define all the finite factors in a way that approximates infinite. This is what a lot of economists and epidemiologists and computer models do already. So when it comes to this with privilege, the simplest way is combine any word with privilege and then start understanding how that precursor word is a factor of privilege. So you can do race and privilege, racial privilege. How is race providing privilege? You can do wealth and privilege, wealth privilege or wealthy privilege. How does wealth do that? You can do poverty and privilege and combine those two. What else can you do? Soccer and privilege, football and privilege, hockey and sports and privilege, athletics and privilege, aesthetics and privilege. Aesthetics is another one that provides a lot of privilege. But even if you don't have the look that most people are looking for, you can still figure out how to use your aesthetics to gain some privilege. So I would behoove you all, rather than feeling caught or beat up by the lack of privilege that you perceive yourself to have, which is really more a sign of body dysmorphic disorder and a sign of some either adjustment disorder or psychiatric challenges. It's not a big psychiatric diagnosis. You don't need to go and get depressed or become schizophrenic. Just subscribe to Schweitzer. Google it, look it up. You'll read my papers on that, and then you can understand it. Contact me, and I'll explain more. But yeah, Schweitzer is a much more civil and polite way to put these psychiatric challenges that we all go through as we develop and strive for longevity at the least, or success, or even just existence. The only real way out of life is death. And you can even say that is even a form of privilege. The ones who figure out how to either kill themselves because they had enough of Earth and want to move on, or the ones who are either so poor that they don't give a shit and they just die, or the ones who somehow figure out to euthanize themselves. I'm not against that either, because that's their body, that is life on Earth, and death is real and a part of the human condition, and the animal condition, and the plant condition. It's a part of the living condition. So, you can dwindle all that stuff down. You can probably watch this video a couple of times if you need to, if you really want to understand all the concepts, and especially if you've never thought about this stuff in this way before. If you have, please, add to the discussion, comment. I'm definitely looking forward to reading all of your comments, regardless of what they are. Please do comment publicly if you're so inclined. I prefer it to be a public discussion than just a private one. But if you have something private you want to share with me, go right ahead and contact me privately. I'm not against that either, but I definitely would prefer the public discussion and public forum, especially at this point, and probably always, just because it starts to include more people and is a lot more inclusive than reclusive. Well, so this is part 2 of my discussion of privilege. I do hope that maybe even Zach King will take a look at this at some point, and maybe he'll, shed light on how this affects his thinking and if he agrees, disagrees, or whatnot. But yeah, he's not the only one that's commented on white privilege, and he's definitely not the one who I heard white privilege from. Actually, just to give you a little bit of background of that, when it comes to racial privilege, it wasn't till I got to the United States of America, and I was really in 4th grade, so it could be an age thing. I might have just been old enough, but it was in the USA, in Florida, where I started hearing about these types of things. And the real history between the white Caucasians of the United States and the black, well, at least from their perspective, what it was at that time is black niggers or Congoids from the continent of, well, really for them it was probably from the Congo and West Africa. I know everybody tries to, show that black is all over Africa in terms of black people, Congoid sixes, but the truth is those people were in the Congo and West Africa and maybe down to South Africa for the most part. And that's evident by geography today of the North Africans really being brown and white people for the most part. Specifically Morocco, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, and even Ethiopia on some level. Anyway, it takes a lot of history and a lot of understanding of evolution and human evolution to really piece that together with clarity. And I've definitely achieved that. So comment, like, subscribe, share, view, do all that stuff. Have a great day.